Welcome to BS Garage. I'm Steve, and today is another bike day. Today we're going to be changing the spark plugs on this 2016 Yamaha FZ-07. We're going to be swapping in stock spark plugs from NKG. I'm doing this because I picked up the bike a couple hundred miles ago. It's at about 18,000 miles, and in the service manual, they say you want to do spark plugs at about 16,000 miles. I don't know if the previous owner did spark plug service, and so I'm just going to go ahead and do it anyway. While we're in there, we're also going to swap out this fairing, because the previous short-term owner of the bike actually had a bit of a spill. There's some scratches on the other side of the fairing, and I picked up this replacement from Revzilla for just like 50 bucks. So we're just gonna throw this on, we're gonna hide all the evidence, nobody's ever gonna be any the wiser that the bike was dropped, and that's just gonna be our little secret. The other thing that we're gonna do while we're in there, we're gonna wash and oil the DNA air filter that's in there. The original owner of the bike put in the DNA air filter. It is washable. I don't know when the last time it was washed was, so I bought a kit and we're gonna go ahead and wash that. First thing we gotta do, just strip the bike down, get the fairings off, and take the tank off too. It's a motorcycle, should be pretty easy. Let's get to work. All right, with all the bolts removed, there is a plastic rivet under here that you have to poke with an Allen wrench in order to release it and get your fairings off. Don't just yank on stuff or you'll break your plastic. Yeah, so in our eagerness to get started, we forgot to put the bike up. So we're just gonna do that now, right in the middle. Okay, so we have removed the plastic fairings and the gas tank from the FZ. So the next thing we're gonna do is take off the air filter, we're gonna clean it out and also re-oil it. It's my first time taking the plastics and the fuel tank off the bike, so I'm gonna look around a little bit too, see if I notice anything that's unusual or, you know, maybe modified about it. Okay. So, funny thing.
Yeah.
This little piece of plastic.
Yes.
I think it's like 80 bucks.
Oh my god.
Yeah, right? So here's the DNA reusable air filter. If we look down inside, we can see this is pretty, well, I should use a clean finger for that, but it is pretty clean in here, which is a great sign. It means that our air filter is doing its job. So we're gonna go ahead and clean this and then re-oil it before we put everything back together. All right, got our filter here. We have Canon Power Clean because I didn't think about this far enough ahead of time to get the DNA cleaner. I think it's gonna be the same thing. They're both cotton filters. So I'm just gonna spray it down and then rinse it off with water. and then we'll take it outside to spray it with oil, because I don't want to do that in my kitchen. We hosed it down. Now we're going to spray from the outside in, because when flowing air, it goes this way out. So any kind of dirt or other contaminants should be stuck on the inside. So we want to make sure that we rinse in a direction that actually flushes that out. Now it's all washed off, and we have to wait for it to dry before we apply the oil. So we're just gonna sit here quietly and wait. Now we can cut. We're back out in the garage after getting the air filter all set. We'll put that in later, but now we're gonna get back to the spark plugs. Alright, so we've got the spark plugs out and just want to inspect these a little bit. It doesn't look to me like they were only changed 2,000 miles ago. So I think it was probably before that, the last time that they were changed. They also appear a little bit on the dark side, which makes me think that the bike is running a little bit lean, which is something that happens when you put an aftermarket exhaust on without changing the fuel injection strategy with a fuel commander or with an ECU upgrade. So in the future, I may want to consider something like a fuel commander or ECU upgrade to reprogram the fuel injection system so that I'm not running lean. But that's kind of a topic for another day. Okay, so we got the old spark plugs out of the bike, and the first thing that we're gonna do with the new spark plugs is to check the gap, because these actually don't come pre-gap. So it's very important that you check the gap and that you set the correct gap before you reinstall them into the bike. The correct gap for a 2016 Yamaha FZ-07, and I have no idea if this is across all model years, but we want it to be between 31 and 35 thousandths of an inch. So I've got my little AutoZone gap checker disc right here, and I'm going to go ahead and slide that in. And it looks like we are between 30 and 35 thousandths, so this one is okay. Do the same thing with the other one. And it's gapped to the same amount, so we're good to go, ready to reinstall. Now that the spark plugs are in, we'll have to replace the little coils and the boots. So we have our spark plug boot protector that we're going to rub around on the inside so that we keep moisture out. So this stuff's really cheap. You just pick it up at the counter at the parts store. Always good to have some on hand in case you're doing spark plugs. Now we'll put these right back where we found them. Now it's time for the tank to go back on, but before we do that, we're gonna oil up the air filter and replace that. Okay, with this aerosol oil, we're just gonna do an even thin coat over the whole thing, and then we have to set it aside for a little while so that the oil kind of permeates and spreads throughout the filter. There we go. We'll set this aside for a little while and then we'll put it back in the bike a little bit later. With the air filter back in, we just have to reverse everything and put it back together. So tank goes on first and then plastics after that.
Click means that original logo off of there and replace one with the other, and that's pretty easy. It's just a bunch more of those Allen keyed bolts on the back here. So you have to salvage the mesh in the front here. It goes into that little hole right there. Good at finding holes with my fingers.
There goes our child's friendly status. So we got it most of the way back together. Let's find out if it runs. It runs just fine. Just like before. Everything looks good. Let's wrap it up. So there we go. That is the spark plug change on an FZ-07.
If you found this video useful or you enjoyed watching us suffer while maintaining our vehicles, go ahead and give this video a like and consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. And we'll see you next time.